Howdy folks, thank you all for coming. Obviously I'm speaking here to the people who actually did turn up, and the last couple of late entrants are trickling in now. We'll probably get over 100, to yet another live Q&A on the Salt Mines Discord server. So for the benefit of everybody who was here live, thank you for coming. For the benefit of everybody who's watching this in Mingles with Jingles, you slack arses, where were you? And I'm joined up here on the stage by Helix Folks and Grumper Salty, who put all of this together and do fantastic work here on the server, along with all of the other mods as well, of course. Before I actually start looking at the questions, because I haven't looked at the questions yet, there was one thing that I did want to say, and it's about last week's Mingles with Jingles, where I touched on an incredibly dangerous subject that is guaranteed to get you into trouble. The subject of diversity and representation in media, particularly games, obviously, because that's what we all love. But, you know, movies, TV shows, books, all kinds of media. And I was I wasn't actually that surprised, but I was very impressed. Because the comments section, and there were like, 1,000 comments. I was so proud of you guys, because normally when you talk about a subject like that, the comments turn into a toxic cesspool of people arguing and fighting with each other. And I did not have to moderate a single comment. And I'm just in awe of this community, because you're all fucking awesome. So I just wanted to thank everybody for that. And without further ado, I'm going to take a look at the first question. So, oh wow. Here we go. The first one, there's enough reminders set. Oh yeah, because I forgot to record the last time, didn't I? Because I'm crap. Cavier's Thighs said, Jingles, now that you're recording, and I am, because we tested it all before we started the stream, would you give a victory pat to Akatsuki? She's not actually here at the moment. It was bizarre, because the second I sat down and started doing a test recording, she instantly appeared next to my chair and started meowing, because she does that. It's the same whenever I start actually recording a commentary for a video. She'll be silent all day. I won't see her, but the second I press the record button, suddenly she's there, meow, 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 demanding attention, because she's such a drama queen. But, you know, when she turns up, because she will, I think it's the sound of my voice, I will give her a pat. Next question. From Aeon AGV. Dear Overlord Jingles, would you consider using other generic names to refer to players with word salad usernames in addition to your staple of referring to them as Dave? Us Kevins, Charlies, Bobs and Jimmys want representation too, please. I'm sorry, but, you know, there's only one Dave. Some people say that he was the product of a forbidden union between a Tog 2 and a Panzer II Luchs. Some also say that he has diesel for blood, but we just call him Dave, because Dave's awesome. Although there is also a Steve, and we don't often see Steve on this channel. Steve he's quite common on Circumflex's World of Tanks live stream. He's usually in an IS-7, he's usually got 20,000 battles played, and he usually has a win rate of 34%. And Steve is amusing too, but Steve is crap. Dave is awesome. Next question from Sir Blake. Oh, by the way, I should point out, I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but you're probably all aware that I've not been feeling too well this week. Don't worry, I took a lateral flow test and it was negative, so I'm not suffering from the unspecified virus of unknown origin. However, I do also have toothache, and I had my COVID booster jab yesterday, so the side effects from that one are kicking my arse as well. So I'm not feeling too good, but hopefully it's not going to affect this recording and we can crack on. And I was about to read the next question, which came from Sir Blake. He said, are there any old Navy colleagues you'd like to meet up with? Who were the best colleagues when you were in the Navy? I would love to meet a man who went by the name of Dave Prentice, because I kept bumping into him when I was in the Navy. And there are a couple of people from the Navy that I still speak to, but mostly not. You know, you move on. But Dave Prentice started off as an electronic warfare rating, and I didn't know him when he was an EW rating. The nickname for electronic warfare ratings in the Navy as gollies. So he made it to Chief Golly. He was a Chief Petty Officer, and then he got selected for officer. And I first knew him as a sub-lieutenant on HMS Brazen, my first ship, where he was the biggest arsehole, in a funny way, right, that you have ever met in your life. There was him and another junior, well, actually quite a senior lieutenant called Lieutenant Nugent. His nickname was Ted, named after the musician Ted Nugent. And those two were the biggest practical jokers on board. They were constantly winding up the other officers, especially any new officers who came on board. For example, right before the first Gulf War kicked off, in the build-up, I was on the Brazen out in the Gulf, and we got a new flight observer. And he was a young sub-lieutenant, fresh out of training. And he arrived on board, and Sub-Lieutenant Prentice and Lieutenant Nugent borrowed the uniform of two of the stewards. So they met him in the hangar when he flew on board, and picked his bags up to escort him to the wardroom. This is just the sort of thing that they did. And they absolutely just destroyed his baggage, taking it up to deck from 2 Mike Flat all the way forward up to the wardroom, threw his stuff in his cabin door, and they were just really rude. And this guy was like, he didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say, until he met them for dinner that night in their proper uniforms and realised he'd been the victim of a practical joke. And they were constantly doing stuff like this. Well, I kept bumping into Dave Prentice, and eventually when I was on board HMS Newcastle, he was the executive officer as a lieutenant commander. And he would, even though he was responsible for discipline, which is one of the duties and responsibilities of the executive officer on board a British warship, he was still constantly pulling these practical jokes. So one of the other responsibilities of the XO was he was in overall command of all seamanship evolutions. So when you're refueling at sea, when you're passing lines and stuff between ships at sea and all that sort of thing, he was in charge. And then there was the chief boatswain's mate who, supervised everything directly amongst all of the seamen. But as the XO, he was overall in command. And he was also, when you're doing a replenishment at sea and you're refueling from a tanker, he's the guy who's in charge of that whole kind of thing. So we're refueling from an American tanker. I can't remember where we were or what we were doing. I think we were in the Mediterranean, taking part in anti-terrorist smuggling interdiction and all that sort of thing. But anyway, we're refueling from an American tanker. And my job during a refueling at sea was what they call Batman. Yes, I was Batman. These things called RASBATs. RAS is replenishment at sea. And they're basically coloured signal paddles. So you can do visual signalling to control the pumping of fuel and the passing of the lines and all that sort of thing. But nobody had seen the XO. Like, where was he? Should be here, in the middle of this RAS. So a couple of minutes after the RAS started, the XO suddenly appeared. Remember, we're refueling with an American tanker, and he was dressed as Osama bin Laden. Yes. Yeah. He had the hat, the robes, he had a rubber mask, everything. And that's just the kind of thing this guy did. He was fucking hilarious.
That sounds like absolute gold.
Yeah, but he did this sort of thing all the time. He was such a good man to work for. He's a fantastic bloke. He eventually retired from the Navy as a commander, in command of his own frigate or destroyer. I don't know which one he had. And I've never heard of him since, and I would love to meet him for a chat again. So, Sir Blake, thank you. That was a great question. And I hope the story amused everybody. The Bearcat wants to know, Jingles, what's the best username you've come across? Thanks from Australia. I came across a couple of good ones lately. There was a guy, in fact, one of them was in a video. His name was They Call Me Dave. And that same day when I recorded that video, earlier, I was playing World of Warships, and I ended up in a match with somebody whose name was, I'll just call him Dave. So it's funny how it gets around. And I'm sure there've been really, really funny and amusing ones, but off the top of my head, I can't think of any other than those two that I came across recently. Ah, right, yes. Eland has a good question here. Jingles, have you heard or seen Arcane, the Riot Games TV show that recently came out on Netflix? This is a League of Legends sort of adaptation, isn't it? I haven't seen it, although I've seen the adverts for it, and I'm curious because the animation looks amazing. and I probably would have checked it out if I hadn't just bit the bullet and signed up for a Disney Plus subscription. So I've been binging on all of the Marvel TV shows, the Star Wars shows, and so on and so on. So yeah, I probably am going to get around to watching it because it does look good. But at the moment, I'm watching the Hawkeye show, which I didn't hate, and was, at least so far, it's only had 3 episodes, quite good. I got kind of worried when I saw the trailers because it's Hawkeye and some girl that we've never heard of or seen before, and I thought it was going to be like the Loki show, which I've watched the first 2 episodes of and isn't terrible yet, but I've heard bad things. Where Loki basically gets marginalised and made to look like an idiot and constantly getting his arse kicked by the female version of him, because, that's the message. And I was worried that was going to be happening in the Hawkeye TV show. Like 70-pound weigh nothing girls flipping 140-pound men around like they weigh nothing. And and I don't want to give you spoilers here, there kind of is stuff like that where she does have to fight people way bigger than her that can drop her with one punch, but it's done in an intelligent way that isn't stupid. And there's lots of things like that in the Hawkeye show, where you think, oh, it's going to be this stereotypical girl power shit, but it isn't, because it's done intelligently. Like, she's in a tough situation and there's a superhero costume line there. And you see it happening over and over in TVs and movies. They get into the costume that was designed to fit somebody that weighs that's 6 inches taller than them and weighs twice as much as they do, and it fits them perfectly. But in Hawkeye, it doesn't. It looks like she's wearing something that's really awkward because it's designed for somebody 6 inches taller than her who weighs double her weight. So it hits the representation check boxes, but it does it in an intelligent way. So I'm kind of enjoying that. But yes, I realise I'm diverged wildly off topic here, but yes, I probably will get around to watching that Netflix show as soon as I've finished binge watching all of the Disney Plus stuff. Because I'm looking forward to the new Star Wars stuff that's coming out, like the Book of Boba Fett and the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. And the only way to get it is to have a Disney Plus account, so yeah, I went ahead and did it. Anyway, oh, this is a good one. Jingles, can we please give Helix Folks a custom role that is called Love Muffin? Because he deserves it. For the benefit of anybody listening to this on YouTube, Helix Folks is one of the moderators here on the Salt Mines Discord channel. And for his absolute sunny disposition that we as a server have come to know and love. Grubs, I realise he's Helix Folks English Muffin, but if that could be changed to Love Muffin, I'm pretty sure, judging by the number, that's Helix laughing now, by the way.
I will get right on it.
Fantastic. Make it so. Because judging by the number of votes, it seems like a very popular request.
Wonderful.
Volker 802. Oh, and there it is live. It's now Love Muffin. Fantastic. You want it? Yeah. Oh, I love this server. From Volker802, question for Jingles. Which is your favourite music genre? Considering how much you love history, you should check out Sabaton if you haven't already. I've actually met Sabaton's bass player. I can't remember his name. I can remember his face. And he's a really, really nice guy. He was at Gamescom a couple of years ago when World of Warships wheeled out Sabaton, I think to sing their Bismarck song, which is very good. And he was also playing World of Warships. And we had lunch with him in the backstage area where Wargaming had set up all of their catering, and he was really, really nice fella. My favourite music genre is probably rock. Well, there's no probably about it. I love bands like AC/DC, stuff like that. People who actually write their own music and play their own instruments. But I don't just like rock. I don't have just one genre of music that I like. There are things that I do actually like that most people would think are incredibly cringe. But I'm actually, I have an internal monologue going on in my head now, whether or not I should or shouldn't admit to this. I actually kind of like a bit of Celine Dion. I know. Don't hold it against me. There's one album she did. The reason I like it, I should explain. The reason I like this one particular, the Falling Into You album, is because I was on a deployment on HMS Newcastle. Again, I can't remember where I was, but we were away for 6 months, and this was before MP3 players and all that sort of shit. Where if you didn't have the CD, you weren't listening to the music. And we had a 6-month deployment in the ship's office on board HMS Newcastle. We had one CD player and 2 CDs. One of them was the Star Sailor album, which I also love because I listened to it continuously for 6 months. And the other one was Celine Dion, Falling Into You. I don't know why we had those 2 CDs. I didn't own either of them, but that was the music that I listened to for 6 months non-stop. And that's the reason. And she does have an amazingly good voice. I don't care whether you do or don't like her music. That's entirely subjective. But she has a very, very good voice. And that one album, I have been unable to get out of my head for the last 15 years because I had to listen to it for 6 months straight. But generally speaking, bands like Thunder, AC/DC, Zodiac Mind Warp, I absolutely love rock bands that play, write, and sing their own stuff. And I generally can't stand pop music, but there are exceptions. And it's really on an artist-by-artist basis. Sometimes there'll be an artist that I can't stand, but they'll release one single that's really good. And so I like that one single. Like Jessie J, for example, and I can't even remember the name of the song, but I've never heard of her before. I've never heard of her since, but there was this one song that she came out with that I thought was amazing, and I have on my Amazon Music playlist. So generally, I listen to a lot of stuff, but I love rock. Why did Jingles never have any mini overlords? Why did I never get married and have kids? I don't know. I guess I never found the right person. I nearly did a couple of times, but it never ended up working out. And I'm not that bothered by it because I hate kids. So get yourself pets, cats and dogs. They're much better.
I have to agree with that, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
At least they actually listen to you.
Yeah, exactly. They don't always do what you say, unless it's a dog. Cats will sit there saying, "Oh, it's interesting noises you're making." Well, I'm going out. They just do what they want. Although Juicy is a really, really good, almost dog-like cat. My ginger cat. She does actually do what she's told. It's really weird. I've never known a cat like it. If I want her to pay attention, I just clap my hands and she looks up and then she hears a name and she comes to me. Just like a dog, if you call it. Well, not just like a dog will come straight to you. She takes her time, but she does get there eventually. But yeah, no, I never had any kids. Although I suppose the standard joke is, not that I know of. And you never hear a woman say that, do you? But I've done that joke before, so I won't labour the point. Going down, checking out most of the other questions. And there's a lot of stuff here that are comments to previous questions rather than actually questions themselves. Hi Jingles, I'm probably not the only one who would notice this, but every World of Tanks or Warships replay you feature is always one from someone other than yourself. Does this mean you've entirely stopped playing these games? And if so, how do you stay invested in them if you no longer play? That's a very good question. I used to do replays of my own gameplay, but I'm crap. Well, I'm not crap. I'm slightly above average. I was by no means a unicum. I was reasonably good in World of Tanks, and I was pretty good in World of Warships. But there's no way I am ever going to be as good as you lot. It's just statistically impossible when you've got thousands of people cherry picking their best games. They're always going to be better than anything I can come up with. I mean, if I was Flamu or Mr. Giddens or Flambass, then yeah, absolutely, my YouTube channel would be just chock full of the best moments of my games, because those guys are amazingly good. I'm not. I'm an average player, just like most of you, and nobody really wants to watch average gameplay. Oh, they don't mind watching average gameplay every now and then if I can talk it up and make it amusing, but I couldn't do that for every video I do. I don't actually play World of Tanks anymore. I haven't for a couple of years now, and I'm very, very quickly in World of Tanks started to lose touch because so much has changed. But I'm still kind of got my finger on the pulse of World of Tanks. With World of Warships, it's easier because I do still play World of Warships. But none of the games that I have are good enough to go up on my YouTube channel. There's just far too much competition from you lot because you're all way better than me, or most of you are. Or even if you're not, even if you're just average, every now and then you have those amazing games, which I can't, I can't get those every day. So hopefully that's answered your question. Oh, good day from the Aussie Salt Mines, your overlordness, said Van Diemen's Land Devil. What's your thoughts on Earl Grey's plans to build a Challenger at World of Warships? Actually, I got a message from Earl Grey today on that very subject, because I believe there's an Australian gaming company that are trying to raise the funds to do exactly that sort of thing. But any actual concrete gameplay from them is years away at this point. See, that's the big problem with World of Warships. They don't have any competitors. They can basically do whatever they want. And it takes, a mass walkout of all of their top community contributors and an open revolt from the community to get them to actually do anything. And I'm pleased to see that they are actually doing something. They're starting to implement all of the ideas that we kept asking them for years and years and years, and they kept ignoring. And now they're implementing some of these new ideas and calling them their own. And you know what? I don't care. I don't care. As long as they implement these ideas. Like, for example, they're talking about carrier spotting. I don't know if you saw the dev blog. But they're talking about, and this is again something that we community contributors suggested years ago, and they just brushed off, where when a carrier spots, for example, a destroyer, because they've toned down the impact that carriers have directly against destroyers, and destroyers are having a better time now. But the biggest issue immediately after the carrier rework came out wasn't so much the direct damage that the carriers could do, although that was pretty catastrophic, but it was also the fact that they spotted the destroyers and everybody else shot at them. So they're thinking about, or they're going to try, when a carrier spots something, it's high, it becomes visible on the minimap, but it's only visible to you to shoot at if you're within a certain range of it. So it's kind of like the radio range on tanks in World of Tanks, where you can have a friendly tank at the far end of the map who's spotted a whole bunch of things, but you can't see them to shoot at them because you're outside of that tank's radio range. So something like that. And if they do it well, this will be fantastic. If they do it well. So, yeah. But it's, it's things like this. And I don't know if there could be any kind of reason why. But this isn't the only thing. There have been other things that came out as a result of the... I keep calling it the community contributor exodus, but it was bigger than that. It wasn't just about the community contributors. Other positive changes that Wargaming have started to implement, like they published the drop rates on the Christmas containers, for example. Something that I didn't think they would actually do in time for this Christmas, so they could make the most money possible out of it. And then, after Christmas, start announcing the drop rates. But they did actually go ahead and announce them. Haven't mentioned any shortlists this time either, where there are like some really shit ships that nobody wants that you have to have first before you'll get the good ones. Something that they did last year without telling anybody about it and hoped we wouldn't notice. No mention of any shortlist this year either. Just these are the drop rates and that's it. So that's good. And now they're talking about toning down carrier spotting. So that's good. And I don't know if this is a result of any potential competition, like Earl Grey's plans to build a Challenger at the World of Warships. I think competition is good because we can't organise mass revolts against Wargaming every 6 months to keep them in line. It's the sort of thing that's only ever really going to have an impact the once, and it did. But keeping the pressure up, the only thing that's really going to do that is a Challenger at the World of Warships, and at the moment there just aren't any. So, I definitely think that if there was another game that did what World of Warships did, it would be good for everybody. Because if it's better than World of Warships, you can play that. And that would kick Wargaming up the arse and make them improve World of Warships. So it's a win-win for, everybody who isn't Wargaming, basically. and that's not a bad thing. Next question comes from Beatstakes 1989. What requirements need to be set that you buy a DLC for a game? Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think I've ever really thought about that. Well, the first requirement is that I like the first game. And the second requirement is that it introduces something that I find interesting, that I think would improve or enhance the base game. So, examples, I don't know, new dinosaur packs for Jurassic World Evolution, I suppose, is the easy answer. Although, see, this is the thing, when you push DLC out for a game, a games developer is fighting against diminishing returns, because the only people that are going to buy the DLC are the people who bought the first game. So if you sell 1 million copies of your first game and then you publish DLC for it, you're not going to sell 1 million copies of the DLC, because not everybody's going to buy it. And you're not going to sell it to anybody who hasn't already bought the first game. So every time you push out DLC for a game, you're fighting against diminishing returns. So it's tricky. You have to make it something that people are going to want to buy. And hopefully you've got more to offer than just name recognition. I'm trying to think of companies that have done very good DLC. And I'm thinking the XCOM 2 series, because there was some great DLC for that didn't just add, but also changed radically, in some cases, the way the base game played, and usually for the better. So that was really, really good. I think those are some of the examples of the best DLC. Obviously, I've only just seen this question. I haven't had time to sit and think about the answer. But by all means, and I'm speaking here to anybody who's listening to this in Mingles with Jingles, if you can name some great DLC for your favourite games and explain why it was great, by all means, let us hear it in the comments. As the Cruel, from your time in the Navy, did you ever play around with some submarines, and what did you get up to? I'm a sun dodger. Yeah. Submariner, sun dodger. And wanted to know what it's like from a skimmer perspective. Skimmers are what submariners call people who served in surface ships. That's the polite term for what submariners call people who served in surface ships. They also call us targets, because we are.
And the number on the side is the score.
That's right. Yeah, because my first couple of years in the Navy, I served on frigates, because I was based in Plymouth. And there aren't any destroyers, or there weren't any destroyers in Plymouth. There were lots of Type 22 frigates. There were a couple of Leander-class frigates, although they were being phased out, and they were just introducing the Type 23 Duke-class frigates. And basically, the Royal Navy's role in NATO at the time, because the Cold War was still going on, although not for much longer, was as an anti-submarine warfare force to close what they called the GI-UK gap, Greenland, Iceland, UK. So America littered the whole ocean floor with a whole series of sonar buoys to listen for Russian submarines. And we would go out and do towed array sonar patrols to listen for Russian submarines. So our whole thing was anti-submarine warfare, and we did train with submarines all the time. The thing is, because I was a radio operator, I wasn't directly involved, although on occasion I would get to rush a signal to the principal warfare officer in the ops room in the middle of an exercise when we were hunting submarines. Usually the Germans, which is weird. Anytime, I mean, we exercise with British submarines as well, but generally when we're doing a NATO exercise, the submariners were always the Germans. And they were crazy bastards, because those German submarines were a single compartment, a single hull. So if you sprung a leak in anywhere in that sub, they were tiny little things, very, very quiet, very good. But if they got hit, there was no surviving. I mean, you had a chance in another nation's type of submarine with double hull, different compartments inside, and so on and so on. You had at least a chance. But in one of those German boats, if you got hit, you were done. But yeah, and they were very, very good. I don't remember an awful lot more about it. I mean, I could talk about the details of how you use a helicopter to establish a datum, and then you prosecute the target, and so on and so on. And but we're really getting down into the weeds here, and I'm not an expert because that wasn't my job. I just learned what I picked up from those rare occasions when I was actually in the ops room. But yeah. I do remember one story. Yeah, it's a good one. Does anybody remember the movie The Abyss? James Cameron movie, the one he made after. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant movie.
Yeah, great movie. Do you remember the bit at the beginning when the American sub runs into the slipstream, shockwave, bow wave, or whatever of the ET, and it gets smashed into the side of the canyon wall?
Yeah.
And there's a scene where obviously the nose gets crushed and water under massive pressure, like just this boiling wall of water just rushes the length of the submarine, and you see it coming through the torpedo tubes and then flooding and everybody is going to die. Remember that bit?
Yep.
So, when I was in training at HMS Mercury, this would have been, I got the Mercury Christmas of 1989, so this would have been early 1990. I was training as a radio operator, and there were 3 branches of radio operator in the Royal Navy at the time. RO for radio operator, G for general, T for tactical, and SM for submariner, or ROSM for short, radio operator submarines. And the ROSMs had their own barracks building, and they went to their own classes. And I knew they had a VCR in their mess, and I had The Abyss on VHS, and I took that up. So I've got something to show you, lads. I just showed them the first 10 minutes of The Abyss on their faces. So yeah, that wasn't very nice of me, but hey, if you can't take a joke, you shouldn't have joined the Navy.
Yeah. Just a quick one. HMS Mercury is the one up in Petersfield, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah,
Mercury
right.
itself has closed,
Yeah.
and all the communications training has moved to HMS Collingwood in Fareham.
Right.
But what they call the SCU, the Special Communications Unit, at Leydean, which is where Mercury actually is, it's about 5 miles from Petersfield in Hampshire.
Yeah.
That is still open because it's part of GCHQ's intelligence listening network, and it's very sneaky beaky up there. And that is still open.
Right.
Right, moving on. Where are we in the questions? Use OBS for recording. Don't worry, I can't even pronounce it. Don't worry, Dave. I've got it sorted. We tested before we started. Goshawk. Hi, Jingles. First of all, how are you? And then my main question, have you ever thought of visiting Finland when travelling is possible again? I would love to go to Finland. Not just because of I can't remember the name of the place, but there's a great tank and military museum there. But just Finland itself. There's a TV show on British Channel 4, but you can also see it online, called Travel Man, with Richard Ayoade from the IT crowd, where he just takes a celebrity for a 48-hour visit to some place. They try to do it as cheaply as they possibly can, and they went to Finland, and mostly Helsinki, but also around the outskirts, and it just looked amazing. I mean, they have a sauna in the McDonald's. Saunas are, but this was something that I noticed every time I've been to Russia as well. Saunas are a big thing. You can get a hotel room with a sauna in the room, and Finland's the same. Saunas are a big part of the culture over there. And there's a McDonald's in Helsinki that actually has a sauna in it, where you can strip down, have a sauna and a McDonald's at the same time. And I just think that's amazing. But there was all sorts of other things in this episode when they went to Helsinki, and I just thought, this is amazing. I need to go there. But yeah, I would love to go to Finland. There's all kinds of places that I'm Navy for 22 years. I've visited a lot of places. But there's also a lot of places that I missed. So yeah, Finland, definitely, it's on the list. Also, I might get to see Flavu, who also lives in Helsinki. Anyway, moving on. And lots of questions. Is it recording? Yes, it's recording. If it isn't, I'm going to look really stupid. Oh, there's a good one here from Basement Jesus. Excuse me, I need to clear my throat. Like I said, this cold has been kicking my arse, and now I'm also suffering from the side effects of my booster jab, as well as having toothache. So fantastic. It's great to be me right now. Right. Again, these are lots of comments. If you skip them, you don't want to answer them. Oh, did I miss something? Did I miss a question?
You did.
Okay. Where is it? Which one is it?
Scroll all the way to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a bunch of questions up there that you missed.
Okay. So, make sure. There's a lot of people saying make sure he remembers to hit record.
Yeah.
Navy colleagues, best username, Arcane TV show, calling you Love Muffin. Yeah, we got that covered. Favorite music genre, Mini Overlords.
If you middle click and then just drag up, you'll get to the very top of the page.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I went to the red line. Are those
the red
not...
line is...
yeah. Shit. There's an absolute ton of questions that I missed. Okay. Like, half of them. Okay, sorry. My God, I'm shit. Right. So, I'm going to rush through these, okay? See how many questions per minute I can get answered. Captain Bacon Strips, do you plan on going to Tiger Day next September? And if so, how many real Dutch stroopwafels should I bring? I can actually make my own stroopwafels now. And I'm not planning on going to Tiger. But I don't know, next September maybe. We'll see. I'm not a huge fan, given the unspecified virus of unknown origin. I'm not a huge fan of going to places where lots and lots of people are going to be making physical contact. And I'm sure you can probably understand. Because my health is great and I've done well so far. I've not caught the unspecified virus of unknown origin. Yes, that is a Critical Drinker reference, and I really don't want to. Next one from Yamatog2. Question with a bit of personal background. When one of my cats passed away, me and my family always took the body back home and placed it in one of the baskets they used for sleeping. This way the other cat could get accustomed to the idea that the other cat was no more. I was wondering if you did something similar with Boo after he passed away, so that Juzi and Akazuki could get accustomed to the idea that Boo was no longer around. Also, my condolences for the best chihuahua that ever lived. I'm not going to cry, Yamatog 2. All right. We had Boo cremated. And then we got his ashes back a couple of weeks later. And we took it down to there's a country park within walking distance of where I live, where he used to go for walks, and he loved that place. And that's where we spread his ashes. So, short answer, no. Long answer, what I just said. Catster, if you couldn't continue YouTube for any reason, what would you most likely be doing? Trying to make my Navy pension last. Oh, I don't know. What would I do if I couldn't do YouTube? Well, that's the thing. I'm kind of lucky because I do have a Navy pension. And I was very lucky that I joined the Navy when I did, because at the time they had what was called AFPS 75, Armed Forces Pension Scheme 1975, which came out in 1975 and is the best pension that there has ever been because you didn't have to pay into it. It was a non-contributory pension. It cost me nothing. And it paid out as soon as I retired from the Navy after 22 years. And then when I hit age 65, it goes up. And it's better than the official state pension. Naturally, this was far too good to last because, you know, a pension that you don't have to pay into. What? So right as I was leaving the Navy, the government announced that they were changing to a new pension scheme where you had to pay into it. And if I wanted to, because they couldn't make me change because that's not what I'd signed up for, if I wanted to, I could transfer to the new pension. And I had a look at the terms of the new pension, and between my retiring and hitting state pension age, I would have been £20,000 worse off. So I said, fuck you very much. and I just kept my existing pension. And it's absolutely fantastic, which of course is the reason why they're no longer offering it. So I'd probably just find a part-time job somewhere, stacking shelves in a supermarket if I have to, just to supplement my Navy pension, because the Navy pension is amazing. Next question, Connor. Hello, Jingles. How are you today? Feeling like shit, but thank you for asking. What's your opinion on your fans calling you your real name versus your YouTube name? I don't know. If I cared, I would have hidden my real name. He says, you may be old and crap, but we all love you. Now extra crap for missing half the questions. He's edited it. But we really do love you. Sorry. Yeah, I don't care. I've got nothing to hide. And if I cared, I would have just... It's very easy to hide your real name on the internet, and I didn't bother. Mostly because I'm crap and I couldn't figure out how to... I think originally, what was it? My Facebook, Twitter, they're all under my actual name. But I don't, like I said, I don't care. Sporotles. Hi, Jingles. I reminded you last time. Oh, yes, XCOM Chimera Squad. This time I'll remind you about Phoenix Point. Yeah, Phoenix Point from the original creators of Laser Squad, the game that XCOM was originally based on. I actually played it when it was in early access, and it was pretty good. But I haven't. It's been live now for about a year, but I haven't gone back and looked at it. Again, Sporotles, thank you for the reminders. Next, from you've got to be kidding, Gregor's Bryskiewicz or something very, very Polish. Are there any regions of England that you've not yet visited and would like to? I don't think so. I've either been to them all or I wouldn't like to. England's not a very big country. You know, it's like 400 miles from top to bottom. It's not big. And I've pretty much been everywhere in England. Recommendations? for anybody who wants to come to England. London, obviously, because London's great.
Portsmouth.
Yeah. Portsmouth for the historic dockyard and all the museums and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
because it's just awesome. And like, you buy a ticket at the historic dockyard, and you can use that ticket's good for a year. You can come back and use it to see everything, including the submarine museum in Gosport and the explosion museum in Gosport on the other side of the Solent River. You know, that ticket is good for everything, all of the heritage stuff in and around Portsmouth. So definitely. London, there's all kinds of things to do. If you ever get the chance to do a visit and a tour in the Tower of London, because the yeoman guards, you know, those guys with the big red uniforms, they're all retired warrant officers with a wealth of military experience and that military sense of humour. And they do fantastic, hilariously funny, amusing and informative tours of the Tower of London. And then, of course, you've got the Imperial War Museum in London, and there's just so much stuff to see in London.
You know, it does actually make me wonder if they give tours of Westminster Abbey.
I don't know if they give tours. They might, but it's, you know, you can just walk in.
Yeah.
You can walk in and just see it for yourself. It's a church. It's so you know they don't. I mean, I've been to places like there was I can't remember which. There was a beautiful cathedral in St. Petersburg, but you had to pay to get in. I was like, yeah, no. They don't do that here. You know, we've got some amazingly beautiful medieval cathedrals, and you can just walk in. You know, you may wish to give a donation, but you don't have to. I believe Basement Jesus just repeated his question. It's the Leroy Jenkins one again, but I caught it the second time. Have I ever? No, this is another one. The Royal Air Force Museum in London. This is from Soggy Sow. I'd love to go. Is that the one at Hendon? Because I've heard such good things about that, and I would absolutely, definitely love to go and see that one. Also, his girlfriend is oddly fond of listening to Mingles with Jingles. It's a shame we went to MCM Comic Con rather than the London Film and Comic Con, as we would have liked to get a pic taken with the legend himself. She was cosplaying Harley Quinn in the new suit. Oh yeah, that's a great. Let me just check that out. I'm going to save this, and at this point in Mingles with Jingles, because that is really, really good. So yeah, that picture's going to go up. Thank you for that. That's a really, really good cosplay. She's great. Let me just hit, excuse me, open original and save image as, and it should be popping up on screen around about now. If you're watching Mingles with Jingles, that is. If you're not and you're here in the live Q&A, you can just go into the questions channel and see it yourself. It's very good. Dave said, hello Dave. Well, he didn't say hello Dave. I said hello Dave, and Dave said, hello Jingles, are you recording? Yes, I am, this time. And there's a whole bunch of people asking me if I've started my recording software. Thank you for the reminders. However, it cannot fail to have escaped your attention that I am shit. And I missed all of these questions asking me to make sure that I'd started recording. So it was all completely pointless, although, you know, I appreciate the sentiment anyway. Josh Webb. Good morning, Mr. Overlord, sir. Would you consider doing some sort of community events in World of Warships every now, as in doing operations or training battles? We could also organise that for you. Actually, Merry BOBMASS, have you heard of it? It's the Bob's clan. They do so, and I'm taking part in that. So I think that's happening like in less than 2 weeks. Can't remember the exact date, but we'll investigate and get the news posted up, because I am taking part in the Bob's clan, because they're a great bunch of guys, and they always do something like this for charity at Christmas, and involve the community as well. And I'm taking part in that. So we'll find out the details, and we'll get them posted up somewhere here on the Salt Mines Discord server. And also for Mingles with Jingles, link in the video description, or maybe a pinned post at the top of the comments. SF Mason, have you considered any other games lately? Would recommend Strange Brigade, as you'd have a ball listening at the commentator. I've only spat my drink at the screen a few times. You know, I'm actually getting kind of desperate for other stuff to play. I mean, I got Jurassic World Evolution 2, and I like it, but it doesn't have much playability.
Do you like racing games?
I don't. So, you know, stuff like Forza Horizon 5. I know there's some really good racing games that are out or coming out very soon, but no. I got, Gran Turismo on the PlayStation 4, and it's astonishingly good, but I'm so bad at it. Like I practiced and practiced and practiced, and then I got Rita to sit down and thought, I'll kick her ass now. And she wiped the floor with me the first time she picked up the controller. That's how bad I am. So, yeah, no, sorry about that.
What about Farm Simulator 22?
Kind of, actually.
It's a brilliant game.
But it seems like the sort of thing that is dull as dishwater if you're playing alone. And
it is. Yeah.
And you must have a group of friends to play with. So I'll have to work on that.
What, getting friends?
Yeah. Right, and on that socially irresponsible bombshell, thanks.
We're in the same boat, mate, don't worry.
Yeah. I think that's where I'm going to have to end it, because we're coming up to an hour now, and I have to condense this down into a video. As usual, there's no way I was going to get through all the questions, but hey, at least I got to some of them, especially the ones that I should have gotten to first and absolutely, totally didn't, because I'm crap and missed the first at least 20 questions. But nevertheless, I hope you've been entertained by some of the stories. I do enjoy telling the Navy stories, and there's usually some questions here that make me remember stuff that happened, and is just hilarious because I loved. I mean, I didn't love every minute of being in the Navy because it's a job, and scrubbing decks down to the bare linoleum and then repolishing them every night. You know, that's not the kind of thing that they advertise when they're recruiting, but most of it was definitely great. So, and I do love telling those stories, and you know, it seems to be pretty popular. So thanks for all of the questions, and now I'm going to make myself another coffee, and I think I might sneak some whiskey into it this time because I feel terrible. And as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.